Welcome to the Movies of the Dam podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you're here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter at Damned Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.ca. Today, we'll be discussing McGee's 2020 horror comedy, The Babysitter Killer Queen. The movie again follows Cole, now 2 years after the first film, with everyone, including his parents, believing he invented the events in their entirety, and B, nowhere to be found. Melanie, his love interest from the first film, helps him escape, but ultimately ends up betraying him when she too reveals that she is part of a satanic cult intent on killing him. B ends up showing up as Cole seems doomed, but tricks the cult into drinking Cole's blood, knowing that he is no longer innocent, killing them all. However, in the end, it's too late for her as well, as she perishes too. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I was really excited to see this film. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was new, inventive. Not to such a huge degree. There's always been like cults and Satan worshiping in films, but it was just presented in a fun and different way, I thought. And I was really looking forward to this one. And I gotta say, there's a lot of the carryover funniness was in it for sure. There's a lot of good funny scenes, but overall, it lacked a lot to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought this movie was great. Now, I'm not going to say it was as good as the first one, but considering how the first one ended, and they went into this, we're going to bring the entire cast back. I don't know if you could have set it up better than this in terms of being able to bring everyone back, if what I'm saying is making sense, but there definitely were some issues.
Well, no, and you asked me what I thought it would be the last time, and I was pretty close to what I thought how they'd bring them all back.
Yeah,
And
you predicted it pretty well.
yeah, so it's like I there's really only one way to do it, right? So it's just like um, I think they fell short in a lot of ways. So like no, I'm gonna say I laughed a lot at this film. There's a lot of really good parts in it,
Oh, I
but
laughed a ton.
yeah, for sure. And in the first film, I laughed a lot as well, but it was also I bought in more. I bought in more to the storyline. Some of the stuff that we discussed that didn't make sense, they were fine with me. I thought a lot of it made sense, even though it was a horror comedy and you forgive a lot, like we've always talked about. I still thought there wasn't much to forgive in the first one with silliness or craziness. This one, there's a lot more you had to overlook, and
Oh yeah.
I don't, I just even like the subplot I had a huge issue with, right? So B gets in this accident and kills that girl's family years before she meets Cole, but then she sets all that up to get to help her again later on. So she wasn't a devil worshiper or a Satanist at the time, but then she kills someone. Someone is responsible for the death of this girl's family, and accidentally though, and then decides to go all evil and kill a bunch of innocent people to help this girl out later.
Yeah,
I didn't like that
yeah.
at all. I didn't like that at all.
Well, yeah, there's some issues there, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an accident. Doesn't mean to kill the young girl's family, and the young girl herself is gonna die. But then I guess she forms that deal with the devil. But then you're right. It wasn't like she was being forced to do evil things. Like after that point, where she was in that terrible choice, she then was doing this stuff because she wanted to. It seemed like in the first movie there was no even mention that she didn't want to do this. She was the perpetrator.
Yeah, man, she was like all in. Like this was her deal. She was looking for the ultimate reward for her evil deeds, and she had her friends along with her to do it, or she recruited a bunch of people along to help her get that done. It's just she in the first one she was evil with a little bit of, I guess, personal attachment to Cole. and
Yes.
but that's it. Like that's the only she knew what she would have to do. She was gonna do it, and if circumstances turned out a different way, it would have been done. But um, but ultimately Cole won out in that one, right? And then I just thought I didn't think it was necessary to do all that. I didn't think it was necessary to do that at all to make her seem like a good person or have her give her good motives for what she's doing. But even though how she gets there is horrible,
Yeah,
right?
no, you're right. There was no need for that. Like she could have been part of the big trick at the end as well, as in she could have been tricked herself just like all the other cult members were tricked. Like, and then everything would have wrapped up just fine, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Or I think it would have been just fine because he didn't really need a trick in this film. There's no reason for it. There's no trick in the first one. It's just Satan gives them another chance to come back and get their virgin soul, and then
Yeah.
have Cole ruin it by being intimate with that girl, and maybe have the bad guys maybe have Cole know that that's what he all he needs to do is to not be a virgin anymore, and that girl who likes him decides to help him out of it, and then the whole movie could have been about them trying to get together and them stopping them. Like there's so much more you could have done with it without having to do that. There's really no reason to create a whole new unknown character development that didn't exist in the first one, and you can't really. There was no tie-in. They invented a new storyline halfway through a movie that was already established itself. I didn't like that.
No, and I can't argue with you. Perhaps it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, but there are issues in this film, John. And just to rewind and start from the beginning, I had a big issue with the fact that nobody believed him at all, except for Melanie knew what happened, but yet she kept her mouth quiet, and Cole wasn't upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that make sense? Like, if everyone thinks I'm crazy, and there's one person who I know knows what happened, but then keeps their mouth shut, I'd be furious with them.
That's true, but so I didn't really have a problem with that aspect of it. So Cole really liked her, um, kind of in love with her or whatever, right? And uh, Cole has obviously been stigmatized by this whole thing, right? He's no one in the school believes him. His parents don't believe him. Everyone thinks he's a loser, and everyone thinks he's crazy. So then she's going to support him, and then what's going to happen to her? Teenagers are cruel, right? She's
Yeah,
going to be crazy. She's going to be ostracized. No one, and she's going to lose whatever comfortable teenage thing she's got going. She's going to lose it all. So I didn't have a problem with her not stepping out and helping him out. I didn't really have a problem with her doing that. It speaks more to her character strengths than it does to his. My only issue with it is that I think they took it a little far, right? So it's like all this stuff happened, and like maybe you don't believe him about the devil worshiping and all that type of stuff, right? But it's one of those things where it's like they knew B existed,
yes. And where did she go?
yeah, right. And so they did address they kind of addressed it, but they didn't really address it. They said yeah, and then B disappeared, so she can't help him out, right? It's that type of thing. Can't help him out with this story or whatever it was that they said. They tried to cover it off, but it was like it was weak. And then like where were all these other people? Like it's just I don't know. I thought it they didn't need to do that, but once again, they could have just like as far as they went, right? So they could have been like, yeah, no one believes Cole about the devil worshipping aspect, but they do believe that these guys tried to kill him.
Yeah, or and like, fine, they don't believe him, but there's going to be a huge comprehensive police investigation as to where this babysitter went.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and so there was just issues with that,
Well, and then
and
like yeah, the two cops that were killed, like
yeah,
they just disappeared. Like that didn't happen. They didn't go home to their families, and no one mentioned it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
no.
So there's really no reason to do that.
But as we said in the past, you can sometimes forgive some things in a horror comedy. But again, as we've already mentioned, it was a little much with this one. But with me, I just kind of let things go and just tried to enjoy this film because even though this wasn't as good as the first one, I still enjoyed it so much. And as we've already said, there were so many things that had me laughing out loud. Like when when Cole's parents go to Melanie's father to try and figure out where they are,
Yeah,
and Melanie's father says that she is DTF,
Yeah.
ditches Thursdays and Fridays. I laughed so hard at that.
I know. No, like
It,
the banter, the dialogue, like it was great, absolutely great. This film, because the parents were hilarious in the first one as well, and they're funny in this one. There's a lot of those lines, like you said, It's like I've no issue with that, and like I said, that's what usually makes a great horror comedy, but it has to straddle the line. Like what puts a horror comedy over the point where you're like, I'm not watching this. This is too out of the line, right? There's I would say this movie never really crossed that boundary where I was like, oh, I'm turning this off. I've had enough. Never happened. But um, I did lose enjoyment aspect out of it because to me it was like they didn't work hard enough at the writing. They could have fixed that up so much easier. They didn't need to do all the stuff that they did.
now, when you say that, what about the twist with Melanie? With Melanie actually being bad? Did you see that coming? What do you think of that?
I didn't see it coming. No, I'll say that I didn't see it coming. I just didn't care though. I could tell you I didn't care. It didn't really do much for me.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? I don't like. It's just like okay. I I guess they wanted to use that as a way why she didn't stand up for him because like if she did stand up for him, then she wouldn't be able to come through with these plans, this plan to do all this type of stuff, and then you have B recruiting her. Like if you remember the first film, it's just like they're so far out of sync, so far out of sync with that. It's like they made B become a good person, they made Melanie become a bad person,
Yeah, they
and
like switch spots almost.
yeah, but with no reason for it. There's no reason for that. They didn't even
Be-
say what
because
Melanie
be-
was.
because because it was B who recruited Melanie to be bad.
Exactly. So they could set up this whole elaborate plan that she apparently put in motion years ago when she killed this girl's parents. You know what I mean? No reason for it.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, buddy. And so perhaps the writing wasn't as par, but the presentation I thought borrowed a lot from the first film. Like I loved when they did the flashbacks, kind of when they were introducing all of the old characters, and they kind of showed their kill from the first movie, but then it also showed how they were recruited before the first movie. I just thought that was very interesting. I thought it added something to the movie.
Yeah, I'm like I don't know what to think about that stuff sometimes, right? A lot
Really,
of
you
time,
didn't like that?
a lot of times I want the killers to be mysterious, man. I don't really. We know what they're doing. We know what they're trying to do, so I don't really care about the rest of it. Like, why do I care that that she freaked out on a news show and said some weird things? Like, why? Like, so many people do bad things all the time, or misbehave all the time, or want to do these things. So why were these chosen over all those millions of other people roaming around? Right? It's just I don't know. I think it was necessary. I thought it would have been better to like um, show that they were friends from another high school and they all just kind of bonded that way. Like you know what I mean? It's just something that otherwise it's just a bunch of strangers getting together to decide to murder people, and we all know how rare that is, right? And it's just you do need usually need a strong personality or a strong religious motivation to get that out of people, which I guess in this case you would have both. But I just don't. I didn't care.
Really? I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought it was I thought it was cool, and it was also a good recap because I found myself being like, oh yeah, I remember that from the first film because
Hmm.
it's just been a while since I saw the first one. So I kind of like the recap and just a little bit of a quick backstory because they weren't long clips. They were like maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and
Hmm.
I thought they were worthwhile and fun to watch.
Hmm.
Uh, there were other parts in this movie that did make me cringe a little bit. When he's hiding under the car and the snake kind of goes up his pant
Oh
leg.
yeah, that's pretty bad.
Oh,
That's a tense moment for sure.
buddy, I hate snakes. Like I would be petrified to be in the same room as a snake, let alone a snake crawling up my pant leg. Oh my
I know.
gosh.
She's like, hold still. Really?
and,
A rattler
and
too, right? Like they're
oh
poisonous.
yeah.
It's not like it's a cuddly snake, a garter snake, right? Like,
The but then there was some gruesome stuff in this movie, just like the first, like the one kill, decapitated by the rocks, and then kind of like the boulder on top of that, then falls into the body.
hmm.
Like I was like, when I watched that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is over the top. But like, a lot of the kills in the first movie were over the top too.
Yeah, but that's like one of the standard rules that Kevin Williamson wrote out in horror movies, right? In the sequels, the kills got to be gorier. They got to be more eye catching. So it's like when that girl's head was ruined by the surfboard.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Like, I was like, I watched that. I was like, oh, this is like that's from Lethal Weapon 2. You ever see Lethal Weapon 2?
Not for years, if not decades, but I
So they
have.
had that elaborate car scene where they're all smashing into each other, and the two cars collide head on, and then the surfboard that was strapped to the top of the car goes through the windshield of another car and takes out the guy's face, takes out the guy's head, right? And
I've seen it, but I'll have to watch it again.
yeah, so it's not obviously as gruesome as depicted in this one. They don't show the guy's face at all. They just show the surfboard where the guy's face should be, and then you see the characters like Riggs go ooh one of the thing, right? But you don't actually see the gore like you did in this film. But yeah, so there's some interesting kills for sure.
And I liked how they kind of solved some of the problem solving stuff too, like when they figured out the code for the boat based on that song.
Yeah, I guess.
You like that didn't do anything for you? I thought that was hilarious, and like it goes to the song, and you can see them thinking about it. I just thought it was clever.
So here's the thing. Like I said, I enjoyed this movie. Like I watched it and I laughed. I had a good time.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of some of the story development and some of the stuff that just like why would these kids? How old are they? Would you say
they're in high school, but they're young, like they're like grade 10 maybe, so like 15.
How would they know that song?
You're ruining this for me, John.
I'm just saying, right? Like when they they started singing that song, I was like, oh, I only remembered it because I'm old enough to remember it, right? But it's not a song that was like uber popular where it crosses decades. It just doesn't.
You're so right, but
so that's why it bothered me. I'm like, this is no, I'm not a fan of that.
And I guess maybe I just wasn't thinking too much into this as we were going. I was just sitting back. I was just enjoying it. I was just letting things go. One thing I couldn't let go, though, they go to this old family cabin of hers that's been deserted for years, and all the electricity still works.
Yeah.
Who's been paying the electricity bill?
I don't know. It could have been a generator. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
no. I don't like. It's one of those things where it's like, you and I both pick up on different things, eh? So,
yeah.
And it's fine because like some of the stuff it's both the same way, right? Some stuff I'll pick up on, you're like whatever, and some stuff that you pick on, I'll be like yeah whatever. But then some stuff is also like oh yeah, good point, right? So it's it's interesting the back and forth we have sometimes, but I didn't really care about that too much. Only like if they don't show it, it's not important, right? So a lot of times, right?
Well, it was important to me. It's like you come across an abandoned house and all the electricity works and everything in there works, and it really didn't look like it was like that like filthy. Like how filthy an old cabin would be if no one's been there for years. There would be like dust upon dust in there.
Yeah, I just don't know what the years were. Like how long ago was like what are we talking about, right? But you're absolutely right.
When she was a little girl.
Really?
Yeah, they showed the flashback to when her parents died. Like she hadn't been to the cabin since then.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would definitely be a lot filthier. But when it comes to the rest of like the storylines and realism and stuff like that, like that rates low on my care meter.
Yeah, I guess there's bigger fish to fry, isn't there?
Yeah, that's all. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that, if we were going with real realism, like that place would have been coated in dust.
Yeah, and he pees on her face.
Yeah.
I laughed really hard at that scene too.
I laughed that she was okay with it. Yeah, that's fine.
And then there's kind of the big reveal, right? So Melanie is playing that role with her parents to try to get them to help flush Cole out, and then she kind of turns on her dad, and they have the confrontation in the cabin, and she cuts one of her dad's arms off.
Yeah,
like he's sitting there, like down an arm, blood spurting everywhere, and he turns to her and yells, "I'm taking your IUD, young lady." I laughed again. I was like on the floor laughing so hard, and then of course she kills him after
that. Well, yeah, and there's a lot of craziness in this, but like I said, the craziness even it has to have some sort of realistic theme running through it. So remember the cheerleader girl was chasing after him with that handgun.
Yeah.
So she shoots a deer. It explodes. Like one shot barely just flicks at it, flicks her wrist at it, shoots a deer, kills it, right? A
Yep.
rabbit running by them, same thing. It just barely flicks at it, hardly even aims. Shoots at, kills the rabbit. Can't hit them running away though.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like
I don't.
I'm like that. Like they were a few feet away at this point. Like it's not. They weren't even far. And I'm like, okay, why'd they do that? That's so weird. And then when they were on the boat and they're going to the cabin, and after a bunch of those people were dead on the dock, um, they're looking out, and they're he's like he could see. Oh, they're in the boat, and they're like, but it was foggy, it was dark. There's no way you could see that boat. Like I'm like, how is he able to see so far? You can't even hear the boat. There's just I'm like, and then when they dock the boat at the cabin, they don't turn the boat lights off.
Yeah, make them pretty easy to find, right?
Right? There's just like there's a lot of stuff in this. I was just like, if they just
Yeah,
took,
and so for anyone who hasn't seen it, yeah, there's a ton of things where you're gonna be like, that kind of doesn't make sense. This doesn't line up. There's a problem with that. But again, if you can just ignore those things and just sit back and watch it, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna have fun. This is a movie that I would watch again. A lot of times I don't like rewatching movies, but if I was ever looking for a good laugh, I would throw this on for sure.
I wouldn't watch this again. I'd watch the other one again for sure.
Really, you don't think you would sit back and laugh at some of this stuff again?
So I would sit back and laugh at this stuff again for sure. And if one of my kids wanted to watch it, like Sophie, like one of my older daughters, or wanted to watch it and said, "Hey, watch it with me, Dad," absolutely, I'll watch it with her. Absolutely. But I would never do it on my own. I would never like choose to watch this again. I would definitely choose to watch Babysitter again.
Oh, well, fair enough. And then we're kind of coming to the end of the movie here, and then it was my favorite line in the entire movie. Any idea what it was?
No, I do not.
The big reveal at the end where Cole is no longer innocent, and they've
Oh,
I get poisoned all the cult members.
and he's like, "Oh, I'm not even mad."
Yes, that's right. He just looks at them. I'm not even mad, bro. Respect. I laughed again so hard at that. Like I just thought that was so awesome. And then obviously everyone, just like the first, basically everyone dies again.
Yeah, yeah.
But did you watch? You probably didn't keep watching. There was a kind of post credit scene. So looks like there's going to be another sequel.
I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see how this one does, right?
And that's exactly what McGee said, that there are plans for another sequel, but it's going to be kind of based on if there's the willingness from the public to see it. So it depends how this performed on Netflix. Honestly, John, I'm guessing it performed pretty well based that we're living in a pandemic right now. So I would put my money on a third one coming out.
Yeah, I would say it would done really well, especially because you're gonna watch it if you like the first one, right? So just based on
Exactly.
that, but it's just one of those things where it's like you might get half of the audience that watched the first one like this one, and then that half will might watch the third one, right?
Yeah.
It gets progressively smaller. But one of the lines I liked is when when they're at the school and the boy asks the new girl, "Hey, going to the lake this weekend?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, can't wait to finger you." Says it to him.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"That's
yeah.
awesome."
Yeah, she was over the top, right?
She was pretty quick witted, that's for sure. That's what I mean. Like this was a funny movie. It was a good movie to watch for that reason alone. Like it was funny. The presentation was well. The directing was really well done.
Yep.
The filming, like all that stuff. I just think if it took a little bit more time on the writing, just to iron out some of those to me, glaring oversights, this would have been a much smoother ride, and thereby, it'd definitely be one of those movies where, yeah, I'd watch it again, and I'd actually tell a lot of people to watch it. But this one, the Babysitter, I told almost everyone I know, have you seen it? It's good. Have you seen it? It's good. I don't know if I'll do that. I won't do that with this one.
And I think you did a good job of summing it up there because you're right. The dialogue was so good between the characters. There were so many funny parts. The directing, the presentation, everything was great except for, like you said, those plot holes. And it's too bad they didn't take a little bit more time to iron them out. But in my opinion, I'm guessing there was a little bit of pressure from Netflix to get this out.
Yeah, but even then, like I don't know. I'm not in their shoes, like so I'm not going to comment on it.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I hear you. And John, Rotten Tomatoes is kind of in line with what you're saying. The critic score on this one was 43.
mhm.
For the first one, it was at a 72, so that's a significant drop.
Yeah,
And this is interesting. The audience score, John, sitting at 65. The
yeah,
audience score for the first one was only 61.
really. I find
So
that
the
odd.
so regular people like this one better than the first one.
Hmm.
And you know what? If memory serves me correctly, we ran into a similar thing with Zombieland Double Tap,
Yeah, that's true.
where I think where I think it was the exact same thing, where critics liked the first one better and the audience liked the second one better. And in both those cases, both this one and Double Tap, I have a tough time understanding how people like the sequels better.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you on that one. It's odd, like it's because if you think about it, if the scores is 61%, there's a lot of people there for the audience anyways that wouldn't watch the sequel. So
Yeah.
you might be getting a whole different audience there, right? Who knows?
Yeah, you're right, because maybe so theoretically, John, those 39 people who gave a thumbs down to the first one didn't go and watch the second one, and only people who liked the first one went and watched the second one. So you know what I'm saying? It kind of
Yeah,
is starting with a bit of a lead.
for sure. So you kind of
Uh,
winnowed out the negative people from the first one.
exactly. And then so I guess you could kind of under my hypothesis this there that only 65% of the 61% from the first one liked it. So
Hmm.
no, it started to make sense in my mind at least. Probably
Hmm.
lost some people there.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything from about the budget. Obviously nothing for the box office since this was straight to Netflix. But again, I could see this thing getting a ton of views. So my prediction is we're gonna see a third one.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, we covered a lot here, buddy. Anything else to add on this one?
Dupe.
No, I don't have anything else either, except for I will give this a thumbs up, even with its glaring errors. This was a fun movie watching experience for people looking for a laugh. Check this out.
Absolutely. This is a fun movie. Absolutely a fun movie. I would not give this a thumbs down at all. I wasn't. I wouldn't be as enthusiastic about spreading the word about this one as I would for the first one.
And I think that is more than fair. Okay, next week. We are switching gears and going back to another more independent type film. We were reached out to again by our friends at Tri-Coast Worldwide and Dark Coast Worldwide. We've almost watched about half a dozen of their movies so far. Some we've liked, some we haven't liked, but they kind of sent us a few movies that we could potentially check out. And after watching the trailer for By Night's End, it intrigued me. I thought it was kind of cool. It's a little bit of a home invasion type of subplot, it looks like. Uh, and it's coming out on October 6th. So that's what we're going to be discussing next week.
Yeah, man. I like it.
Yeah, so looking forward to it. We'll see what they offer up this time.
Yeah, see if like they're doing a Don't Breathe type of thing. That was a really good home invasion type film.
Oh, that was fantastic. Like
So good.
it,
Yeah.
I think it would be tough for this to follow in those footsteps,
No,
but
no,
we'll
but
see.
yeah.
The trailer looked intriguing.
Well, it's like what all I mean is that where the tables are turned on the people doing the crime.
Yeah, and you know what? The trailer did kind of give me that impression a little bit.
Well, otherwise it's not even. There's no reason to have a movie, right?
Yeah, I guess it would just be like they're just tied up as yeah. No, I get what you're saying. And with that, folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram at Damned Movies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you'd like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesforthedamned@gmail.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first three novels, Dollhouse, The Tracker, and Off the Grid, are all Amazon bestsellers. You can also order his novella Balance, his book of short stories, Four Shots of Horror, and his newest novel, Murder Run, all available on Amazon. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.ca. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
That's right, everyone. Thanks for the support for Murder Run. It's been getting a lot of support and a lot of help and a lot of likes and all that fun stuff that's been really great for me. And if you like knowing about the whole writing process and the whole self-publishing process, check out my YouTube channel, John Hunt Fiction, where I do my self-publishing experiment. It's pretty much a walkthrough of everything that I try to promote and market my book. So you're going to see the stuff that succeeds and the stuff that fails. And I know I'm actually living it and I'm doing it, but I look at it afterwards, like, you know what, this is actually pretty interesting. And I'm actually enjoying the whole process. It's a lot of fun. Kyle, you're not a writer. It's fairly interesting though, don't you think?
Oh, I think it's really interesting, just to see kind of what has worked and what hasn't, because you're being honest. Like, you're letting the audience know the couple of times that you've done something and fallen flat on your face. And so I'm interested, even though I'm not a writer. And for someone who is kind of writing and wants to think about self-publishing, to me, this would be a great tool to take a look at and just to get those helpful hints.
That's right, because I'm stepping on those landmines first that you're going to want to avoid.
And you're
And
talking about those
yeah,
landmines. That's the important thing. You're
yeah,
not just coming across, oh, I'm so perfect. Look at the great job. Like, you've made some mistakes and you are full disclosure about those.
for sure. This latest one, episode 3, you'll. So my original release date for Murder Run was December 1st. I was going to try to build up some marketing buzz before then, but for whatever reason, the paperback got released immediately, so I had to change my ebook release date. And I could just check out episode 3. I've run through the whole process. It's actually pretty funny, and it's one of those things that I'm learning from. It's actually a really interesting process, and like I said, it's pretty funny. But yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great week, and be kind to everyone.